something for you.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Quad Damage Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Robert, and joining us as usual are Deadforge.
What's up?
You can't see it behind that face, but he is there. And dressed up as whatever the hell he's dressed up as is Midnight Medium.
Hola.
Excellent. So joining us for today's Halloween episode is the return of the man, the myth, the beard. It's cult developer Juan Muguruza. How you doing, Juan?
Hey, good. Hola.
Great to have you on again, of course.
Hola. Yes. Deadforge, take it away.
Green bottle.
There you go.
We can still see it. It's good.
Let's get going.
Booming.
I don't even know what to say.
Okay, thanks for joining us back. It's been a while. I think you were one of the first people, actually, that joined us on this show when we first started in the first few months, and it feels good, now that we're coming up to a few months before our yearly anniversary, that you come back, and of course it is the perfect opportunity, being Halloween, of course, that a game such as yours should be brought back on the show. So just for the viewers at home then that are watching, that haven't yet caught up on the previous episode that you've been in, why don't you just give us a little update on A, what the game is, and B, what you've been up to since the last time you were on?
Sure. Right. So, the game is Cult, just in case. It's essentially a single-player shooter, sort of throwback shooter to like the 2000s era, like early to mid-2000s, sort of. It's inspired by games like Half-Life 1 and 2, Doom 3, Wolfenstein Return to Castle, and the 2009 one, which, there's like an acquired taste for some people. And Painkiller and other games from that era. Also some of the 90s, like Blood, for example. Here, it's like that. This is one of my favorite shooters, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, nice. So you've had the demo out for a while now, and I've noticed that, of course, you bring out trailers every time that you do an update to it. Each update to the demo has a subheader, a name for it. What version of the demo were you on right now?
So we released it this year. I think it was April or something like that. The 9th update. It's called Call from the Abyss. Like the first, I think 3 updates were like mostly like smaller improvements and bug fixing and stuff. But after the third one, we started like updating, more major updates. Like I think the 4th one had like a save system. We released it without a save system, which is pretty stupid if you ask me now. But hey, like we did that. And every update had like improvements. The last one added a lot of stuff, and also major reworks on the level, on the audio and whatnot. And we plan to keep updating it until release. And the idea is that whenever we have like proper release build, we will update it with exactly what you will get when you buy the game, just like the first bit of the game essentially. So you can have a go at it and see if you like it.
I've actually been playing a lot of Ghostbusters recently.
Yeah, I've noticed, because it shows up on your Discord what game you're playing, and that's why I linked up my Steam to it as well, because I was like, I didn't know you could do that, so I did it. So you'll see Fear 2 or something.
Yeah, it's linked on my Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So yeah, it'll say what I'm playing on any of those. Which I always forget that that's a thing, because then I'll get a message on Discord or something like, "Oh yeah, I like that game," and I'm like, "Wait, how the hell do you know I'm playing this game?"
Get off my back, bro.
Yeah. Well,
But no, it's a really fun game. It's like an asymmetric, horror kind of thing, like Dead by Daylight and stuff, and it's really good. Really good Halloween, game.
I never heard of it. Literally, when I saw the game, what's it called? Ghostbusters. What?
Spirits Unleashed. I actually dropped a video the other day on it, and it's made by Ilphonic, some of the guys that worked on the Friday the 13th game.
Right.
They also worked on Predator Hunting Grounds and the Killer Clowns from Outer Space game. It's got a super fun gameplay loop. Like you get to play as Ghostbusters or the Ghost and stuff like that. Yeah.
What happened to the Killer Clowns game? There was like everyone was anticipating it, and then it came out and disappeared into the ether.
It's been out for like 3 months. I mean,
Yeah.
or 4 or something. It's still there. Still people playing it pretty actively. It's just, I mean, they're still releasing DLC and everything. It's just, any of those multiplayer games, the YouTubers are like, they jump on it, they play it for like a month, and then they move on to the next thing. That's just how that goes.
Yeah, it's a very weird choice. I mean, even the movie, of course, it's still it's very cult. Like the what's it called? So it's very I reacted the same way everyone else did when it first came out. It's like, really, Killer Clowns from outer space? You're making a game on that?
It looks like the a culmination of like everything that they've ever done, like Ilphonic, and then the other people who originally came with the idea before Ilphonic published it. And it's kind of like the best of all of that mixed together. And actually, it looks really good. I actually recently watched the movie because I realized I hadn't watched it before. You talk about like just a cheese fest. I mean, that movie is, it's just funny. It's not even that brutal, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I knew exactly what it was.
And it set out to do that. And that's why everyone likes it, because at least it's not preaching to you in any way, or it's not,
I'm also surprised that it never did get its sequel. Like, it never did. All the people who, like the directors and everybody that was involved with the movie, actually helped with the game. So,
yeah. Oh, so I guess really the game is the sequel.
Yeah, basically, in a sense,
project worked.
Yeah,
damn, man.
They actually just added Tom Savini as a skin, or as like a character you can play as in the game for some reason.
I was going to say I never heard about that game until you mentioned it. Like I thought you were talking about the old Ghostbusters game, actually.
Oh yeah. Well, that one's also really good, which they remastered recently.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Is that the PlayStation 2 one?
Oh no, it
was, well, yeah, it was technically, it was on PS2, Wii, 360, PS3, PSP.
Yeah,
it was that point in time where they released everything on everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the good old days, before everything got locked down onto individual platforms and they started remaking everything. The PS2 era, and I would argue the PS3 era as well, the ingenuity within video gaming at a AAA level, was just, I mean, it was the ingenuity that you see in the indie level right now. There was also a different type of game coming out every week.
Expectations, especially for licensed products and things like that, were all over the place back then.
Yeah,
because you'll get things like the Punisher game by Volition, or you'd get all these like other cheap knockoff things. And then there's like one that I find very funny is the Ghost Rider game that came out in 2007, which the PS3 was out by then, and I think it was the year the PS3 came out was 2007. So the game was in development prior, was supposed to launch alongside the movie, but came out a little bit later. And it's like, it's based on the original, it's a sequel to the original script of the first movie, and then they changed the script of the movie. So it's like a sequel to a movie that never existed. And then on top of that, they released it on PS2, PSP, and GBA exclusively. GBA in 2007.
That was a really interesting era. Like
in 2007, and so like the PSP and PS2 games are pretty much identical, and then the GBA one is it's like a side scroller beat 'em up, like the Punisher beat 'em up game, and that's why I'm really want to play that. But it's really expensive, so
it is. Yeah, Juan, what were you gonna say?
Oh, and I was just gonna say that's an interesting era on gaming. Like I remember when just the first Harry Potter movies released. I don't know if you played it, but like the Game Boy Color and I think some of the Game Boy Advance games as well, they were RPG games, like Harry Potter RPG games, and like just before like the Hogwarts Legacy one, this is like the first time we got some role playing associated with. It's sort of like a thing that you always expected, like a game from this specific IP to get. And like that, there's a lot of interesting examples where like the PS2 game is so like vastly different to the GBA one. Like another interesting example is the Splinter Cell ones. That they have like, they are still stealth game, but like they are like side scrollers, and they are quite interesting ones actually. There's like even like a Sims game that is like some sort of RPG with Sims mechanic. Like it's like an interesting era of game. A lot of quirky games.
Yeah. Well, Splinter Cell.
Have you actually seen? Speaking of that, have you seen the new game being developed by all three Szymanski brothers? That's basically like Bully meets Hogwarts, like Harry Potter kind of thing.
Seems quite fun.
It looks very weird and interesting. It's just got a demo right now, but the demo has multiplayer, which is kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
Is that like Secret Wizard Rogue Agent game or something like that?
Yeah.
Some crazy name.
And then they also dropped that other game, which is basically like a Condemned thing. That was by
That's the
John
one I was
Szymanski.
thinking of when
Or
you
Dave
mentioned
Szymanski,
it.
not John Szymanski.
I remember just seeing the video of like guys getting whacked with baseball bats or something like that,
Yeah.
and thinking this is very different to what the Szymanski does previously. I always call them the Szymanski joint. But the Splinter Cell games, I think we may have to accept the fact that they're not coming back. Ubisoft just doesn't give a shit about those anymore. And
that's a shame.
I don't know if you've heard of it. It really is. Did the mask get too hot?
He was just too hot for the mask. It was starting to melt.
There is a very, very talented indie developer that I very much like his work. Antonio Freya, I believe it is. Molino.
He renamed his studio.
Did he? When?
I don't know, like 2 days ago or something. He made it like a big official studio, and he's gonna like start hiring people. And it's all for his most recent project, which looks to be like even more so this like Metal Gear Solid Splinter Cell kind of thing.
That's what I was going to say, because he took the mechanics from like Splinter Cell and kind of made them his own. And his most recent game is like him graduating from indie to almost kind of AA production values. It looks like the next level of what he's doing. So I mean, I don't know what he's renamed his
I can't remember. You'd have to look at his. So it's actually his Twitter account is no longer Merlino Games. It's got a different name.
I happen to have my phone here. My curiosity is getting the better of me.
The demo for what's the name? Butcher's Creek, I think it is the name of David's new game. I play like when it released, like the day or the day after. I quite like it. Like it's such a.
I haven't played it
yet.
Like
I would recommend, like, if you like anything that David did before, it's just on the same level of quality or even better. I would say, like, some aspects.
Chop Goblins was a fun experience.
Yeah, that was so good, and I played it for so long, and I had no idea. I was like, this I can't get through this goddamn one room in the game, and then I finally got through to it after trying for like 6 months. And it was the final room, and I beat the game. I'm like, I got stuck on the last part of this
another
game.
That's like, it's in that same price range. That's like so much bigger and more and like way better than you expect is Zorch.
I haven't played that one.
It's like
looks pretty good.
I think
it's like a Quake like
a lot for Zorch's exposure. Because many people, including myself, had never heard of it until that video came out, and then once by the time it's over with, you're like, "Oh, that's fantastic," And he mentioned Cult, of course, in one of his videos as well.
Oh yeah, that was a big surprise. I remember, like, I think got a mention from someone on Twitter, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I was not expecting that. But that was great. And also, like, just getting his opinions. He seemed to enjoy the demo. So, like, super happy about it.
That is a long name. Secret Agent Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate.
Oh, you mean that game? Yeah.
That's such a long name. That's that other, the Szymanski, like the first thing that they've all three worked on together. That whole name is that game. Yeah.
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. Taking things back to Cult, then we do have the Cult dev on here, of course. It's
what's the guy's here? No.
When did he join?
Okay. That's the bearded guy that's up there. I got you.
I've never met him before. I was talking to you guys, and he just joined.
Yeah, no, he was just here.
I just listened.
I haven't seen you leave the door open like that.
Speaking of, speaking of Cult and appearing in other videos and stuff, what is the have you had any kind of recent feedback on how things are going? You know, how's it progressing in terms of fan appeal and what people are saying about the game?
Yeah. I mean, all in all, I will say like it's pretty good feedback. When we just released the demo, like almost 2 years ago, I think it's gonna be 2 years ago in like a bit, like in some months or whatever. We got really bad feedback, and to be fair, like it was pretty well deserved. Like, I mean, some of the stuff was, of course, the typical, when you release a game on Steam, and this is something I knew, but like I didn't think I understood well back then, is that people, even if they know it's like an indie game, even if they know that you made it on your free time, you don't have a budget, blah blah blah, they will rip you apart, right? Like, because they you're in the same platform as their favorite games. So like at some point, it's not like most of the people are just not gonna like be super objective about that, right? Like it's not gonna be. So you have to sort of grow a thick skin about it. But on the other side, we did had a very rough demo, and the reason for it was, of course, we got the chance to be on Realm Thief. I think that was
2021, I
2022.
think it was.
I think 21. I'm not sure. Like, I think 21 we announced the game. 22 we released the demo.
Yeah.
23 I think we just updated it, and then 24 there was no 24 actually, right? I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm a bit lost on that. But anyways, point is, demo was like really rough. We worked really hard. We thought that it was gonna be like 3 months of like updates, but like that ended up being like a year and something. I mean, of course, while we were doing it, we were like building parts that are needed to actually make the full game. But like since April this year, we have not been working on the demo in any way or form. Of course, there are things that we are improving on the game that could be part of like a demo update in the future, but like we are mostly focused on any of the needed systems for making the rest of the game, but also making the content, which is the thing that takes the most time actually. Like this, we are currently working on the second level, which funny enough, like I don't know if any of you finished the demo, but like for most people was like a 40-45 minutes like average playthrough, which is somewhat long for a shooter. And some people, of course, much more. Like some people are like, it takes like an hour and a half to beat it because I don't know, they just play at a different pace. And this is like the second level so far is like almost double the amount of content, which is completely stupid if you ask me. But it's my fault actually. Like so, and like there's several reasons to it, but it like if I had to like just like make like a short version of why, the reason is, while we are happy with what we gave people with the demo content, it's not exactly what we want the game to be. It's sort of like we iterated on it a lot, but there are still a lot of things that we just, in order to like showcase it the best way we can, we should have like to literally redo the content entirely for that part. So that was like, we started the second level. It's like tabula rasa, like we don't have anything. We have to build everything from the ground up. And that was great because we started like iterating on it a lot. Like we did a lot of things. I actually have a list here, so I can just sort of like list out what are some of the changes. Like we have like 4 new enemies. It's like 4 new enemies. Like there's a boss fight, 1 new weapon, loads of like new mechanics and systems, optimizations. For example, we added sort of like grab and throw mechanic from Half-Life 2, right? So with like physics, we start creating puzzles with that. Actually, the second level is, I think it's gonna portray much more how important as a reference for us is Half-Life, especially Half-Life 2, which is something that I don't think like if you play the demo, it's not necessarily you will notice, right? Like maybe it's one thing or two. Like for the most part, it's like a different thing. Like maybe you say, oh, this is like much more like, I don't know, Wolfenstein, right? 2009 or whatever. But like really, one of our biggest references is Half-Life. It doesn't mean that we are making a copy of Half-Life. We are not making a copy of any game. We're just like trying to make a tribute for all the games that we like. We grab the things that we like, and the rest we just make whatever the fuck we want. Like for example, a lot of people had a lot of issues in the game with the difficulty of the enemies, the balance of it, and especially environmental hazards, because we are quite ruthless with it, and it's intentional. Like there's a there's a really interesting interview. I think it was around the time where From Software was moving from Dark Souls 2 to 3, right? Like 2 was just released, and I think they were working on 3. And they interview director Hidetaka Miyazaki. And I think at some point of the interview or something like that, there's a question where they say, is the game is going to be harder, right? Because one of the biggest critiques that Dark Souls 2 had was that a lot of the difficulty felt artificial, because instead of like making a new enemy or a new type of like combat puzzle, they sort of say, you have this enemy, which is really hard. Okay, now you have 2 or 3 of them, right? So it feels cheap.
Yeah, they did do a lot of copy and pasting on that one.
Yeah, they improved that on the DLC, and but
yeah,
like,
the Scholar, the first Sin edition.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an amazing game on that version. But anyways, Hidetaka sort of says, well, the reason it's not like we designed this to just be like super hard. It's just that in order to make the world make sense and actually like communicate the experience and the fantasy you want to players, we need to make it challenging. Otherwise, like you will sort of get like tonally and visually, audio, etc. Everything is going to communicate you something, but when you grab it, it sort of like feels disconnected. So you have to make it that way. And this is something that sort of resonated with me with what I want to make with the World of Cold. Just it's not the same. It's just like we are trying to adapt it and come up with how that works for us. But like it's still pretty much the same idea, right? Like it's just like it's a world that's supposed to be like oppressive and dark and whatnot. So the difficulty needs to come with it. Talking about difficulty, one of the things that we started doing with second level is that we already put together a difficulty system, so you can choose difficulties. We still need to balance a lot. So the idea is that everyone's going to have a difficulty they can play with. If you don't want challenging experience, you can roll with it. But from the normal difficulty and upwards, it's always going to be challenging. Right? Like normal is actually going to be quite challenging.
I feel like that's something I liked about Cult was the difficulty. Because I think, which it's cool that you're doing that, because that's accessibility, and that always makes it easier for more and more people to experience the game. That's something that's been a big talking point for years when it comes to FromSoft games. But I think it's like the one thing about that, like having that kind of dynamic difficulty and like having to learn how the game functions, is something that I love, because it's such an old school design philosophy and mentality towards developing a game. And I think it's like something that not a lot of games do. So that's why like the Souls games and stuff like that always stand out, is because, oh God. Anyway, it's because they, they choose to have this old school mentality where you actually have to learn like the level layout. You actually have to learn the bosses, the enemies, and how they function to get good at it. Because it's not like, as someone who's played through a bunch of the Souls games, it's not like Dark Souls 1 is like the hardest game to ever like exist on Earth. Yeah. It's just a game that happens to be difficult because you can't just run in it and whoop everything's ass. You have to like learn how to play and find your own play style and like actually pay attention, like you did back in the arcade days, or you did on the SNES, or you did in like even the early PS2 days and stuff.
It's also not a reflex.
I was seeing that.
It's like you can't be hyperactive and get through it just on sheer.
No, you can't be super aggressive, which is where like
you've got to sit there and like lock in.
But that's like Bloodborne was the complete opposite of that, where you had to be very aggressive to actually get health. Yeah. It was a big
turtle
15 minutes.
It was a big learning curve on that one. But like to connect it, like I was playing this game called Clash, Artifacts of Chaos. And a lot of people call it a Souls-like because it has, I don't know, challenging enemies and kind of a Metroidvania like connective tissue to it. Like it's not a huge game, but it all kind of like comes back together, and it's kind of cool in that way. But it really isn't Souls-like at all. It's just a game that requires you to like learn bosses and environments to progress, and it gives you it doesn't tell you where to go or how to go there, and you have like some leniency to like you can go in different directions earlier or later. And I just think a lot of people aren't used to games being designed to give you a challenge, be difficult, and like they can become easy if you just like learn how to play them.
Yeah. You've got to build it. You've got to build it into the DNA of how you design the game. To give two different examples, like Shadow Warrior 2013 isn't a particularly difficult game. its difficulty comes from the fact that it's just wave after wave after wave. What artificial difficulty, for want of a better phrase, compared to something like Doom Eternal, where you have to learn the mechanics of how to take down your opponents, and it gives you the freedom to kind of approach it from that aspect. I've always been remarkably shit at From Software games, and from like Bloodborne, I played it for about 15 minutes, realized I was not going to have a good time because I'm crap at it, and then just pieced out at that point, with my head held low. But as a developer,
I feel like even people who are
carry on.
Such a delay. There's like a delay in before. I'll let you continue. But I was gonna say, like, you mentioned Doom Eternal, which is like, as they say, it's like this game of chess.
Yes.
And compared to like 2016, it's like not even the same at all. Like, it is a significantly more difficult game, especially if you're playing it on hard, where like is like the recommended difficulty. It's such a like ball busting game compared to 2016. Like 2016 is a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of those games it's not an easy game to like get into. Like if that was your first, Doom game or first FPS or something, it would absolutely destroy you.
It would, yeah. And to be a little disagreeable with the thing, I feel that as soon as Doom Eternal came out, that Doom 2016 erred on the side of almost being boring to play, because its combat
it's not as frantic or insane. Yeah.
I've seen an argument. Yeah, I couldn't disagree more with that. But I get why people say it. Yeah,
it's a different experience. And I've gone back recently and played 2016. It's not that it's a boring game or anything like that, in comparison to it per se. It's just that it's not as intense as Doom 2016. It's more just running and gunning. It's still an absolute masterwork of the genre, and in many ways it does it. I prefer the visual look of Doom 2016 to the more cartoony arcade sort of style.
I will say it's not just the visual side for me. It's like the overall tone of the game. Like even it's not that I don't like the It's like actually 2016 is much more in line with what we've seen on Doom 3, right? Like it's closer. It's just like a continuation and reinterpretation of that, which I much prefer, to be fair. Like it's not that I don't like the fantasy bit of Eternal. Like it's just an amazing game. It's just that if I have to choose for my taste, I wish they continue. And I'm quite interested in seeing what they do now with Dark Ages, right? Like I'm waiting.
I was going to say the same thing. Yes. Yeah. It looks like it's got the intense combat of Doom Eternal, but the visual style, the more grounded, darker, more realistic sort of palette that Doom 2016. That's why I like many people, I was like, why are they making another Doom game? They should be making a Quake game at this point. Doom's had its cycle of storyline and it ended with, the Ancient Gods Part 2. Why they're not making a Quake game? But as time has gone by, man, I'm getting juicy for the Dark Ages. I'm really looking forward to that.
I have so many things to say, so I'm going to try to go in order by the last thing you guys said and see if I can remember everything.
Got all the time in the world.
Yeah. So regarding Dark Ages and like them releasing that and not another Quake game, I do want a new Quake game. Right? Like I would love to see what they can do with that IP, especially showing how they flesh out Doom with the newer games, and I think Quake as a thematically so much more interesting than Doom. Like, and I'm sorry, some people might disagree with that, but like Quake has so much more meat in those bones to actually make a newer game with like a more interesting world than Doom, because Doom is actually quite simple, right? Like the original ones, at least. So that's like number one. But number two is like at this point with the two last games they released, it's like I don't give a fuck what they make. I'm gonna play it because those guys are fucking amazing. Of course, it can go wrong as it does, but like I have the uttermost respect for the people that working at ID, because the games they did are just some of my favorite ones in the last 10 years. So, it's just like I'm here for more of that. Let's see what they do. Let them cook, essentially, right? Now, going back a little bit to the argument on difficulty, it's an interesting one. I have like different point of view on it. The first one I want to talk about, like, it's really interesting how sort of like in general, like the gaming culture embraces the term of like something being a Souls-like, because it's challenging, right? Like, and I mean, I'm not the oldest guy, but like I do remember, like, you know, when I was a kid, most games were challenging. Like the Sega Genesis games, NES games, all of those games, like for the most part, they were like fucking hard, dude. Let's not even talk about arcade games that they were designed to fuck you up and waste more coins, right? So you know, I don't think difficulty is the thing. It's interesting that the community embraced it, because I mean, it's hard to argue against like what the work that From Software did. They literally changed it, I think, a bit the landscape of gaming in the last 15 years or so. But yeah, it's interesting. This game as an example, right? Like this game is so fucking hard. Like it's
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, just playing normal difficulty is like, it's not a walk in the park by any means. And just increasing one level of difficulty, you literally get cooked like in 2 seconds. But it's interesting because I think there's two parts. Like as a designer, I will say like there's two parts on difficulty. Like one part is about the challenge and like the gameplay experience, right? Like just making something like can either be like replayable, or like you can, because you want to master it as a player, or because you just want to give like in different points of like the game, make the experience more challenging, to like just try to dramatize a little bit the experience or whatever. There's that bit, but I think there is one thing that I think modern games did better than older games is finding that sweet spot between the tone of the game and the difficulty to actually create like a consistent experience, you know, in all of the vectors of a game. The good example is Dark Souls games. I think they do it very well. Like everything feels completely, like nothing feels like, you know, who the fuck made this? Like these don't belong in this game. Like you cannot just do it. Like, and I think the new games, the new Doom games also do that really well. Like they are like fantastically directed to so everything feels like, you know, a part that actually
just well crafted.
Yeah, exactly. And that is ultimately, I think, what we wanted to also with Gold, right? Like we wanted to sort of like use every avenue we have in the game to give you an experience that feels compelling, right? Let's see how that goes when it releases. But yeah, I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. Like you guys said so many things that I wanted to touch, but like I might be forgetting some stuff.
Okay, folks, it's time for our famous rapid fire round. Our guest has 1 minute, kinda, to answer all 10 questions given to us from a random question generator, including the one trick question that we added. Let's do this.
You got Wang.
All right. Question number 1. How long do you think you could survive on your own?
Like, in which... Can I ask which context?
You may, because that's a bad question. Let's just say...
Is this like a zombie apocalypse or something?
Yeah. We'll go with that. We'll go with a world-ending, a cataclysmic event has left you
I mean,
on your own.
I have two answers for this. The first one is, I don't think, like, somewhat, like an average, like whatever people are dying to, like whatever's the time, I will probably do the same. But like my wishful thinking is that I can actually die pretty quickly, because if you like basing on any of the, you know, media that portrays what the world looks like after a zombie apocalypse, I don't want to live with those assholes. Like everyone is horrible, right? Like the most horrible people is gonna survive. I don't want to live with those people. Fuck them. Just want to die.
So you don't want no Mad Max post-apocalyptic Tina Turner?
No, forget about it, dude. I just want to die quickly and
Things
just
go
chill,
bad.
right?
It's just deuces.
Hopefully, I can come back and kill some of those as a monster or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Ashes 2063 style. Yeah.
Number 2, do you enjoy people watching?
Is this a sexual question?
Anything you want it to be, baby.
What?
I'm sure for some people it could be, but imagine you're in the park observing.
Yeah, it can be like it really depends on you know, the people, I guess. But like yeah, it can be really good fun. Yeah.
What's something you know you should start but haven't?
Well, I mean, the simplest answer I can give you right now is that I'm about to go on holidays in a week or something. I'm still haven't done most of the things I need to do, all that. So I will start with that, but there's much more to do, actually. Yeah.
Okay. What's something you would be willing to stay up all night to do?
Making games. Fucking love it.
People watching, am I right? Okay, no, I'm good.
Watching people.
Okay, what's your favorite daily routine?
Oh, making first coffee in the morning. That's just like, best thing in the world.
Ditto.
10
happened to
o'clock at
Medium's
night, I
camera?
got a coffee. There's always a good time for coffee.
Oh, and one of the rules we should have prefaced this with, there is one trick question in here, so it may be abundantly obvious here in just a sec which one that is. Why is Prey 2017 so overrated?
It is not. You're wrong. That's the answer.
You got it. You nailed it. Flying colors. I knight
Good
thee,
answer.
Chadley. Chadley knight. Chadley writes a lot. Okay. If you were required to have a job of some type, but you didn't need the money from it to survive, what job would you choose?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I always wanted to be a musician. So, but like being in a band. So maybe, like, I will go with that. Probably sucks, but yeah, whatever. Let's go with that.
Yep.
Learn a simple instrument, harmonica or something like that. Yeah.
Cowbell?
Actually, something I want to do. I want to learn how to play harmonica.
Yeah, literally, just buy one off Amazon and get
Play
to
the
Yeah,
cymbal.
that's the plan. The plan. It's on my to-do list.
What are the top 3 characteristics that you feel are the most important for a person to have?
I would say just because it irritates me a lot, I fucking hate people who are not self-aware. Like, it's just, people are like constantly trying to cause attention from other people. Like, they are like, when people are just fucking stupid, it's like, just don't. Like, it gets me
I love it.
really, bore me really fast. So I would say that one. It's not needed, but I enjoy people who are straight with things. Like, this is a thing that actually was quite hard for me when I just came here, Rob, in the UK. When I moved from Argentina to live here, I was like, it was hard. Let's put it that way. And last but not least, fun people, like just funny, like fun people is just the best, right? Like, it's the reason why you want to, for the most part, be with anyone in any way or form, I guess.
Gotta be fun.
I would say like, just like entertaining people is just the best, right? Like,
it elevates your whole way of life if you're surrounded by people that are positive and the glass is half full and they're joking and stuff.
Exactly.
This is why people in California are happier than people in Siberia. So.
Or it's, all the weed.
Could be as
And
well,
other things. I've heard there's a lot of cocaine there too, but hey.
We got a lot of vodka in
Really?
Siberia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vodka in Siberia, so
Well, there isn't much around here. In the talk. Oh, sorry.
Oh, so that's what's on your face. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Exactly.
same thing.
Yeah, he just he forgot and he went.
Just face first.
You just wasted a lot of coke, Rob.
just made 2 mountain of titties of cocaine. That's it.
You just wake up and go, oh, thank God I got a podcast later. Then I can know it all. It's like the Office episode where Creed comes to the
He
Halloween
was
party with a
working
bloody
his
shirt.
energy levels prior. Makes sense.
All right, we got 2 more. And we may have already touched on this, but what is something that will instantly annoy you?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Like, people who are like not self-aware, like actually people who are like try to get attention in like stupid and like not entertaining ways. Like, this is one of the reasons I like don't like Twitter a lot, right? Like, in social media in general. Like, the cringe. It's
Right.
yeah, and also like the fact that works, it's even worse, right? So yeah,
Right. That people reward it so regularly. Yep.
yeah, it just sucks.
And on that last note, this may actually tie in. Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I would say I'm probably a little bit more extrovert, but really depends on the mood. But yeah, probably extrovert, I guess.
Yeah, how do they normally define that? Because isn't it kind of like an extrovert gets more energy from interacting with people and an introvert can, but their battery is like smaller, I guess is the idea. Like sometimes they need to kind of go off and charge themselves up a little bit. Like they have to have time set aside. Is it it's just kind of like
Yeah.
The
I'm a
batteries
very
require
like I'm a
different
very
charge.
extroverted person, but I also can get pretty easily drained from a
Same.
lot of interaction.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I guess it'd be like, for me, it'd be like a middle ground.
I guess the difference is that probably extrovert people can get introvert, but I don't think introvert people. Maybe I'm saying something stupid here, but like introvert people have a really hard time trying to be extrovert, while the other way around is
Yeah.
like maybe easier. I don't know.
Well, it's about bringing it. If you're introverted, you're not particularly deep in terms of your ability to emote. So
Right.
it's trying to force something out that isn't actually there. And I don't mean like what we're doing now, where you got to bring the personality across the camera. I mean, like just chatting with someone in an elevator or something like that. You know, if you're
This
introverted,
pure skill and
it can be
sex appeal is all
difficult.
natural, baby.
You got Wang.
That is the end of the rapid fire round. Juan, thanks for joining us for that, for this semi-new feature. We've done it a few times now, and it gives a fantastic little insight into, you know, the working mind of people outside of
Yeah.
talking about, you know, the games and stuff like that. Deadforge added
Thought this was supposed to
Deadforge
give you
added
energy.
Right.
a fantastic question on there, and I want him to ask it rather than me to cut him off and asking it in regards to Silent Hill. To read it out exactly how you've written it.
But actually, got to tie in another question to that as well.
Okay.
Did you say you wanted me to say it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, it's your question, isn't it? Yeah. Don't.
I didn't know. I thought that's what
I'm
you just
forever.
said. I mean, sure.
I'm forever cutting you guys off, so you know it's.
Nah, it's okay. It's okay. I do the same thing. It's okay. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, since you're very culty, what are your thoughts on Silent Hill or even the Silent Hill 2 remake? And then also to add to that, another question is, you know, what's like an intriguing or weird cult that you find interesting as well, to follow up the Silent Hill one.
Okay. So regarding Silent Hill, yes, I'm definitely interested in playing it. I'm actually saving some horror games for December because that's when we are supposed to start working on the third level of Cool, which is supposed to be the horror level. So like the pure horror level,
Okay.
kind of like Ravenholm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You had me at Ravenholm.
Yeah, I'm saving all of those references for having a very horror, esque month. I quite like Silent Hill. I never played 3. I played and finished 1. Shit my pants because I was very young, so I don't remember all of the things. But like I remember playing it and shitting my pants with some friends. I played 2, never finished it. No, I would say probably second.
Like,
no, I was like probably like what, like 11 years old, 10 or something like that.
And how
But
often
it was
do you
fucking
shit your
scary.
pants with other
Scary.
people?
Well, once a week, more or less. You're dead.
It's
Yeah. So I never finished it 2 actually. So I don't. The thing I don't like about playing the remake is that I might not have the best way to contrast it, but at the same time, it's going to be a new experience for me. So that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for Deadforge. Come on.
Yeah. I wonder why they just remade Silent Hill 2 instead of Silent Hill 1. It seems a bit weird just to jump. Resident Evil I can understand because they remade the first game actually a few years before that, so I can understand them going on to the second. But Silent Hill 2 and you go straight to it. It's like, come on guys, if you're gonna do it chronologically and just work your way through the
pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, the other games pale in comparison. 3 is the closest in popularity. 2 is obnoxiously popular. I mean, it's the kind of thing
Silent
that
Hill,
says
like,
it generated its own meta of weirdos who only know the game from how many motherfucking video essays have been put up on YouTube.
I was going to say that
there's
Silent Hill 2 is
of
just
them,
like
but it's
the
just
most
like,
popular.
Yeah, it's
it may be the
staggeringly
most popular, but it's still, to me, it seems very peculiar because Silent Hill, the first game, is still incredibly popular, and it is chronologically, in terms of development, the first game that it seems like the logical place to start. So
Yeah, but I mean, most people talk about 2. They like, it's rare that anybody talks about the original. The original is definitely an even more flawed game than the second one, and definitely not as good of a game. And
yeah,
didn't have as much of a wide reach because I think there was even you could still play you could play Silent Hill 2 on. I think they released a version of it on Xbox, and it was on. They had two. Two was on like Xbox, and so was 4, I think. And then they had it on PS2. So it was just like a wider audience thing. And then the original was just a PS1
It
game.
was just PlayStation 2.
Isn't
Was it
correct
just
me?
PS2?
But,
I swore they put Silent Hill 2 on Xbox as well.
They put it on the
Let me double check
is-
it. Yeah. Let me double check
Isn't
that.
Silent
But
Hill
no,
2 like more unique to like from what I remember, Silent Hill 1 like totally completely different to any of the other survival horrors from the era. Like was quite interesting, but still like mechanically was quite similar, right? Like and the second one was the first one to like start to change the formula to make it like unique overall, like a thing. I that's what I remember, at least from what I played them.
Well, wasn't it too also that Silent Hill 2 is much more survival horror? Like, obviously, everybody talks about the story and the twist, and that's obviously to be commended. But, like, I noticed when I'm watching gameplay, he's always just unloading on whatever's in front of him. It's never, like, evasion oriented. It's never like, oh, shit, I'm out of ammo. It's always like, seems like there's just enough to take everything out just by brute force. That may just be, like, a secondhand oversimplification.
To answer that question regarding Silent Hill 2 on original Xbox, it was released on original Xbox in December of 2001 after the PS2 release, and actually had exclusive bonus scenario to the game. And then later on in 2002, it was put on PC. So yeah.
Okay.
So it was released in 2001 also on Xbox. The only 2 that were ever on original Xbox was 2 and 4 because they didn't put 3 on there. And then it wasn't until like later that they did the HD ports for 360, which are completely broken on 360 and were only patched on PS3 to actually function properly.
That
So,
sucks.
Makes no sense, but yeah.
Quick
What was the
question for
second part?
everyone then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'll let you finish what you're saying, but just afterwards, a question for everyone. What is actually your favorite horror games? It is Halloween, and we are talking horror games. You know, let's talk like the best ones out there. So, Juan, just to continue what you were saying, then I'll let you finish. But let me know what it is that your favorite horror game afterwards is.
Yeah, I mean, I can just answer that right straight away if you want.
Do it, baby, do it.
I think my favorite horror game is Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth, just because it's of all the Lovecraftian experiences I had in games, it's one of the ones that resemble them. Like it feels the more authentic to what the experience of reading the novels, right? Like, and I wish we had more of that. I mean, I still love. I mean, I'm making one, right? Like Lovecraft inspired games, and I like people having their own takes on things, but at the same time, it is very rare to get really good Lovecraftian authentic experience in games. Like if it's not that one, I would say maybe the Eternal Darkness is a flawed game in some aspects, but it's a really good one. And I really like, that's just one game that I will be like raving if Night Dive can get it imported to PC and make it run well and all that stuff, because it's like a completely forgotten game. It's such a gem. A lot of people didn't play it.
Wasn't that a GameCube game, or am I misremembering?
Yeah. I played on emulator. I didn't have a GameCube.
Yeah,
but yeah. So.
Medium, what about yourself? What's your favorite horror game?
Oh, shoot, let's see. I feel like I should choose.
Oh, you finally took that thing off.
Yeah, it's gonna slide down and get in my way, and I'll be even more neurotic about it.
I keep sliding down in this chair. That's why I keep moving around there. I think, is my ass shrinking or something?
Damn. Usually it works the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I think probably the spirit of the question would probably be best suited if I chose like the best like pure horror game, because most of the things I like are action horror anyway. Doom 3, Evil Within, Fear. Condemned is pretty high up there. But just like in terms of like not having like pure fear, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It's probably the scariest game I've ever played. Like I used to play that. I played that in 2010 on my 18.5-inch laptop. It was this huge Cosmeo. It's this thing that like, I'm sure they kill switched. It died after a year, but my God, was that a good year. I had the headphones in the pitch black darkness of like my living room. And that was unsettling on like a molecular level. How many times that game
I completely agree.
Push me around.
Yeah. You guys, have you played the Penumbra games? The ones
Yes.
they did
I
before
haven't, but I'm
Amnesia.
absolutely
Yeah.
going to.
What's the
Yeah.
first Penumbra game? The one that you had to send a message to and like a text message and it replied to you.
You're in, was it the Arctic or something like that? Your father's just died and you're there and there's some shit going down with some experiments.
Yeah.
And you end up killing your friend.
So there's Black Plague.
That's
there's Requiem. Isn't there a third one?
the third one's not actually a game, it's almost like an add-on to it though. Which one? Yeah, Black Plague. Black Plague is the first one?
No, I'm just saying those are the names. I'm saying, I don't know. Every time I try and figure out the chronology, in my head, I can never figure it out.
Overture.
Yeah. That one.
Yeah. You can see that they were walking so that Amnesia could run with those games.
Oh, yeah.
Deadforge, they just gave us what their favorite horror games, man. What's your take?
Yep. Favorite ever is like such a tough thing. From like pure scare, weird, like, freak you out kind of factor. Like I have a big spot for the Outlast series, and they really will always kind of be really high tier for me because of those reasons, because of being like the first game that I ever played in the horror genre where you could not fight back to any degree whatsoever. And so it just makes them that more, unique and special because of that. And I actually, funny enough, a game that I hold in high regard that is kind of like the most important game for me as far as horror games go is Silent Hill Downpour, what's considered one of the worst Silent Hill games or whatever. It's actually really good. I think what most people dislike about it is that it's one of the American games. People just really hate on those. It's more action focused than it is like psychological horror, but there's still a lot of cool stuff that it does. And like I'd always played horror games, and like Doom 3 scared the shit out of me when I was younger.
Oh yeah.
Some of the horror elements in like Butcher Bay and some other stuff like that. And like the Flood in Halo or something, and I played Dead Space, and my dad bought it for me when that came out, and like it scared the shit out of me as well. And so it took a long time for me to like, I've always loved horror movies, but it took forever for me to get into horror games. And whenever Downpour came out, my dad told me about it, and he eventually bought it for me. I played that, and like I actually really fell in love with it. And that was my first time playing Silent Hill as well. And I actually really fell in love with the world, the mystery, and all those things, like, because I've always been someone who enjoys mystery and lore and, like, environmental storytelling. So there was a lot of that there. So, like, it was, like, a very pivotal game that got me into the, like, horror game genre, like, fully and pushed me into it. And that'd be, like, followed up by The Evil Within only a couple years later.
What up?
It just kept pushing me further and further. Yeah. And so, of course, Evil Within's a great one as well. And then this is just going a whole nother direction. But what I would say is probably one of, if not my favorite, horror game ever is either Little Nightmares 1 or 2. Probably 2. I think 2 is even better than 1. But they're like very I don't want to say underrated, but they're kind of overlooked little horror gems, because like they are genuinely creepy and weird and very vague. Tons of world building and mystery, and
scripted scenes will mess you up. Like those are terrifying.
Oh yeah, and like the chase sequences, the bosses, and things like that. Following in those footsteps.
And that twist at the end.
Inside and Limbo.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I'm really excited for Little Nightmares 3 and what's that other game that Tarsier is working on?
Reanimal.
Yeah, their new game, which just looks like Little Nightmares in an alternate universe, which is exactly what I expected them to do. So
looks like the Dark Souls to Bloodborne transition, where they it's horrible and terrifying at first, and they're like, what if we just made everything even uglier and more horrific? And you're like,
even more terrifying and horrible. Yeah, well, it was always such a unique concept and stuff. They're probably my favorite. Yeah, like no doubt. And they're also my favorite. What would you call them? 2D. I call them 2D puzzle platformers.
2.5?
So Little Nightmares, like Little Big Planet, Unravel. Like they're not a typical Mario 2D side scroller, but they're more puzzle and walking sim kind of stuff.
I think they are closer to games
just like master the button press type thing.
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
closer
yeah,
to
more
games like
physics.
Flashback or Heart of Darkness. I don't know if you play any of those, but like they are similar.
Flashback,
No, I haven't
More
played
like
those.
yeah, it's more like cinematic and like more
Yeah.
measure experience in general.
yeah.
I've heard a lot about Flashback. Are those games actually pretty good?
It's
It
really
was,
good.
yeah. Then they brought it back. Was it last year or something like that?
Yeah.
And then everyone just ignored it, which was a shame, really. But
Yeah,
for
they look
me,
cool.
Doom, yeah, well, it did look it. For me, Doom 3 was the first horror game that I played, and I think that's probably the reason why after boomer shooters or or older first-person shooter games, that the first-person horror game is like my second favorite genre because it really does place you within that environment, and you can hear in your headphones like the light bulb pop over here or something like that. It has a visceral effect on you, and occasionally I'll play on the wall on a projector that you'll see behind me with the lights off
Okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so immersive. But Doom 3 was
Lighting and
literally
sound design are
game-changing.
so
Yeah.
important for like
I was
games
going
like
to
that.
say this earlier on. I was going to say when you play a horror game, you can literally feel the art part of video game making in the
Oh, yeah.
crafting of the
Oh, yeah.
sound design of the visual look of it and stuff like that. You can see that there are artists at work crafting a world there
Yeah.
that is a sensory thing for you. And people they overlook the sound design to games so much. All the graphics are great and the
Oh, yeah.
FPS and all, but and I said on Reddit not that long ago that sound design is so important that you could have a pixelated wall right in front of you and it will bore you to shit, but the moment you hear something behind you, you're suddenly alert.
Oh, yeah.
Sound design
I
is
would
incredible.
say
Graphics have nothing in to do with the quality
yeah.
of a game, and I think
I would even say
fans.
that there's two interesting things about sound design. The first one is that most people like they don't know, like sound designers are like really underrated in the industry in the sense that people don't know them, right? Like players don't know them, but like a lot of the reasons
No,
they
yeah,
like
not as
mechanics
well.
and stuff, right? It's because of the work of those people. I'm not saying like the
Yeah,
artists or the
yeah.
game designers or the programmer are not part of that work. Of course they are, but like I think sound in general has this thing where like it feels like, I don't know, like let's suppose you have to take some meds. It's sort of like the difference between taking a pill, like your body sort of like processing it and like injecting it into your brain. Like sound is like it goes
Yeah.
directly in and it sort of like goes directly into your sort of like your brain starts like
Yeah.
generating something in return of that. And it's such a like a visceral thing, right? It's really, really important.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
imagine like
Even the
Yeah,
games.
playing the Lake House.
Sorry,
recently.
Medium. What were you saying?
I'll be quick. But I was playing that Alan Wake 2 Lake House DLC. And regardless of whether you think that's good or great or not, can you imagine playing those games on mute? Not just like generally speaking, but like the amount of depth those sounds have and those weird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All those bizarre and the jump scares. Like if those hit you, you might be like, but it wouldn't invade your brain like that. And it's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I think that's the
cool
thing with
spoke sounds.
like horror, like Alan Wake 2. I mean, I would even say like, Callisto Protocol, Dead Space, a lot of these games, and I don't know how much people played RE8, like any of you guys, but like all those games, and I actually was going to say like RE8 it's more action than RE7, but I actually was more on edge in that one than in RE7 because like RE7 is so like confined that you're like, there's something gonna jump around the corner, right? It's just a given. But RE8 was a lot more open, and you had like these fields where like the lichen like enemies kind of hid, and all you would hear is like you would hear the hay, the like tall grass just kind of like
yeah,
were like rustling, and you're like,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was
and
pretty.
then
That
it
is
would
one
be
of
like
what I'm
it would be
saving
like
for December, actually.
yeah. Then it would be like there
okay.
was nothing there, or one of them would like pop out at you.
Oh, guys, I have one question for the team. If we got enough time, that might be fun. What is the scariest moment you've ever had in a game?
Ooh. Well, like in Fear on the ladder, everyone always says something like that.
Right.
For,
yeah, exactly.
for me personally, it was Doom 3 when the Hell Knight came out of the teleporter, because it wasn't just one. I think there was like two of them,
There's two.
and it was so confined Yeah, I was so confined in that room, and I was I can't use a BFG. I'm gonna nether realm myself, you know. So it's just that wasn't fear as in like the psychological fear of, oh, there's something in the room and it's behind me. Can I run away from it? That was I'm absolutely fucked. What do I do? Sort of, mommy, help me, you know, moments. You know,
Yeah.
it was one of those for me.
It's a pretty good one. I think mine, unless someone wanted to go, was also Doom 3 related. And I probably told y'all this one before.
Yeah, you
so
go ahead.
I'll just let it rip. So there's a vent you go into, right? And pretty much throughout the whole game, you've been told that there is, or led to believe, it's only room for you in the vent, right? Because they're only you sized, and you're like, there's no way they would try and cram it. It's not going to fit. It's going to clip and do weird stuff with the AI. And there's a little offshoot to the main route that you're going. You know where to go, so you're like, let's just see what's over there because it's a game. There's going to be something over for me to pick up. All right, you go over there, you can see the glow of the health item or whatever it was in the darkness. There's just a little cubby hole, kind of like where you might store a backpack or something, like, you know, in a bunk. That's what it kind of looks like. Just this little cubby hole, this little dark cubby hole. And I'm sitting there. Would they do that? No, there's no way they'd put anything there. It's just too small. Okay, pick it up, and it doesn't move at first. Just nothing going on. I back away from that shadow, and something about it, I can hear it. I turn back, and that little imp adjacent creature with the like 4 or 5 eyes just lights red, and then just slowly. I think I was sitting. I think I came this high off the couch, and I was all by myself, house sitting, and so I was already in this kind of mindset, like I'm all alone. That thing hits me. I had it nearly. That is the closest I've ever had to having a cardiac arrest while playing a game. Like legitimately was like medically concerned for a sec that I had hurt myself. I was like, are you? You know, I had to stop and come back. And I was like,
Doom 3 was so good for scares. When you're confined in like when you're confined in that place and you turn around, the fucking imp is literally right in front of your face or whatever, you know. And it was such
Doom
a
3 is really good. And it was one of those early games that like really perfected that audio design mixed with lighting.
It's the audio and shadows. That made that game audio and shadows.
I think it just like pushed it through a few years into a future that other games took. You know, took a few years for other games to catch up to that.
Yeah.
Nice. What sucks?
It took games a minute.
That shadow technology,
especially now that we got binaural audio.
So they didn't really even get to use it anymore.
Oh, shadow tech,
the stencil shadows,
along with tech in general.
Yeah.
We don't really use, like I've talked about this a lot. Like I think me and Medium talked about it on an episode that I've yet to release on my channel. Like tech in games is just less of a thing. Like you don't get the shooting a fish tank and Splinter Cell in the water lowering. You don't get, you know, things like Dead Island 2's, you know, flesh system, or you don't get tech a lot, like interesting, cool things like that.
I think you do. It's just that it's not player facing, right? There's a lot of like, in order to deliver the experience you expect on the quality you expect, there's a lot of like behind the behind the
scenes kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, and you do have things like the Nemesis system and stuff. I mean, I guess you just see it a lot less in AAA, and it's more so in lower budget things, I feel like. Minus behind the scenes. But to answer the whole like scariest scene or whatever, one little like honorable mention is the first time you encounter a volatile in Dying Light. It's just so freaking adrenaline pumping because you're sitting there. It's like the cut scene. You're opening the GRE crate trying to get stuff, and then they pop up, and then they're just like fucking running after you, and you're just fucking hauling ass. You're like, you know, like they're. And anytime you go at nighttime in Dying Light, like it's fucking terrifying. Like it's just you don't want to go out at night. So I play like 90% of the game during the day. I don't even play at night.
Literally impossible.
Nice.
But the big one that like would be that moment for me. I'm sure there's been many throughout history that I could probably think back at, but one that will always stick out to me. You know, funny enough, I mentioned Resident Evil 8. And it is the moment that you're in that house and the giant ass baby fetus thing is chasing you. That shit freaked me the fuck out. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I'm just running in circles and like trying to get the stuff so I can go this way. And it just, it was terrifying as hell because you're just going down that hallway and here it comes. And you're like, what the fuck is that? Worst nightmares right there. It's terrible.
Juan, what about you?
I mean, just like in terms of like most scary experiences, probably is like Silent Hill 1 when I was a kid, playing it, the year it released it on PS1 with a friend. I was like very young, like 10 or something like that. That was fucking scary. And it was not just like scary in the sense of, the jump scares and everything. It's just that the mood, it was the new experience for me. I wasn't expecting, like, the thing right now is that I watch horror movies every fucking weekend. And like, it's hard. I enjoy horror as a, art form, but it's just like, it's hard to surprise me, right? And that was, I was too young. It was a new thing, a new way of telling like horror in games. So that one's probably up there. I will say I agree with Medium. First Amnesia game. Holy shit. I was literally sweating playing that game. Like when when the I don't even remember the name, but those like faceless monsters that they are like looking for you, like chasing you. Oh my god, that was like really fucking harsh. I will also give a big shout out to two games. The first one, I don't know if you guys playing Half-Life Alyx. There's one part in particular. Okay, there's one part in particular. Don't like just someday get a VR headset, play it. Don't play no VR because there's no chance they make that bit equally as frightening as playing. Because the thing in VR is that you got it in your fucking nose, right? Like it's really fucking scary for real. Yeah. So there's one part, it's amazing. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm just gonna say that the scary part of Half-Life Alyx. And then the other thing I think it's like a really, really fucking good experience is either this enemy on the first Dead Space that sort of like regenerates, and also the ones on Resident Evil 4. Just because they are essentially designed to like say, okay, all of the tools you have, fuck you, those are not working here, right? Like so, and that's like pure horror because like you prepared the whole game, you upgraded your arsenal, all of the stuff, and then you have to throw it because you just can. The only thing you can do is escape, and I think it's amazing. It's really, really, really well done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I recently played it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was just like the Regenerador section.
Yeah.
It holds up.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Cool. Yeah. It's time to go to the viewers' questions. This is the segment of the show where we put to the guest the public's questions. In this case, it is the previous guest who is also a dev. Let's do this.
I have something for you.
Cultix dev Jason Smith was on the show last week. We asked him what question he would ask you, and Jason wants to know when you're going to be adding the C96 pistol from Cultic to your game Cult.
I mean, the answer is I wish I could, but like it takes a fucking long time to make weapons. So probably not. But I would love to. I would love to add like like small things here and there from other shooters. I love Cultic. Like his work is just phenomenal. So yeah, and also like C95. Yeah, it's such a unique weapon, right?
Horror game.
Yeah, it's really good. Really fucking good.
Next week we've got on Zlim Bratsky on the show, right?
Oh,
so if you had to ask him a question, what would it be?
Okay. So I will ask Zlim if he had to help in any of the upcoming shooters, which one he would like to work with and what he would like to help with, right? Like which thing he thinks he can help other developers make better. That's my question.
Nice, getting past that YouTuber thing, start going into playtesting and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Under the mayo, that shit.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, Mayo does a lot of it, of course, and he has been credited in games for it. So that's fantastic.
I guess so. Before we fully wrap it up, I was going to ask you, what's your go-to relaxing, sit down and chill kind of game, and what's your favorite Halloween game?
Okay. Halloween, I will say probably Bloodborne nowadays. Like probably before that, it might have been Blood, but like Bloodborne is just so addicting as well. My relaxing game, it's not a relaxing game, but I'm stupid. So I will say it's Dota 2. Like I play a lot of Dota 2. I don't relax. I do the opposite. I rage a lot. I swear at both my opponents and also my teammates. But that's my
it's the
relaxing
opposite.
game.
It's your favorite blood pressure raising game.
Exactly. I don't think I play games for relaxing. Actually, in general, I don't know. I prefer to sleep for that. I don't know. Or watch a movie.
That's fair enough. I was also going to say we were talking about the importance of audio and sound design in games and stuff, and I just kind of want to shout out like a really good composer is Olivier. How do you say his last name? Olivier.
It's the weirdest name.
Olivier.
I've had to look up the pronunciation.
But how do you say his? How do you say his last name?
His last name is actually said
Derivier?
exactly how you think it would be. It's Derivier. It's nothing. He even says that his first name is the.
So the last part is spelled exactly the same as the first one, but it's pronounced differently.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
Okay.
From which?
Yeah, anyway, he is a fantastic composer. He's done Dying Light 2, both of the Plague Tale games, Plague Tale Innocence Requiem.
Mm-hmm.
He did Remember Me, Streets of Rage 4,
Vampire.
He's doing that new Dying Light, the Beast thing. Yeah, he did Vampire or Vampire, however you want to say it. Oh, did he?
Yep, he did Get Even.
Yeah. Yeah. He did Greedfall as well.
Mm-hmm.
He also did Technomancer, which is also spiders. He's doing that new game South of Midnight that's coming out. Bozer. He's really good.
If it's
Wouldn't
French
think he'd be in so much stuff, but he's really good.
Dibs, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he did something really cool with Dying Light 2 that I think is less seen, but he did a momentum based soundtrack. So basically, the more momentum you have, the more parkouring you're doing, the faster you're going, the more you're just flowing together, the more intense the music gets, and the more it starts to flow with that. And he's been dropping hints that he did something of a similar nature, but also different and unique for that South of Midnight game. I'm curious to see what he did with that, because that game is a very, very interesting like kind of game. It's like an action adventure in the bayou, but it's like it's by the same people that made We Happy Few, so it's very artsy and different. So it seems pretty cool. Yeah.
I always love the work from I think the name is Jeremy Soule from the Elder Scrolls games. It's a shame that I think he's been on some really weird stuff. So I don't know, I don't know what's going on with that. But the thing is, I still, from time to time, I still play the Oblivion Skyrim, especially Oblivion's OSTs, and I can feel like I'm playing the game again. Like I'm just like in my mind. That's just like a really strong. It's such a like an incredible skill, really. Like the fact that he can make that like just with music, it's insane.
Nice.
Pretty hard to beat the Morrowind thing.
Cool.
Oh yeah. I wish I knew the guy, but there's a guy who does work for Giant Squid, who made like The Pathless, some of the people that made Journey, and they made Abzu and stuff. That guy is phenomenal, the way he does music in that game.
Austin Winter.
And there's another guy I found out. What is it?
Is it Austin Winter?
Yeah, Austin Winter. Yeah. He does really good. I know he's been on some other things too. Mm-hmm. There's another guy, Jason Graves, who's been on he's been in like a ton of stuff, like especially Ubisoft.
2, I know.
Yep, Dead Space 2. With the one that, because he did Far Cry Primal, which I really love the music in that, and he actually did Murdered Soul Suspect, which I really love the soundtrack in that game, and that really surprised me when I found out about that. But yeah, so
all right. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of our episode today. Then, so Deadforge, do you want to see us out?
Yeah. Thanks for watching the Quad Damage Podcast, and thanks for our returning guest El Mugu once again. And so you'll be able to find all of us in the usual places. So we'll start with El Mugu. Where can we find you?
I think you can find me on Twitter. I'm not gonna say X. Fuck Elon Musk. Let me double check. Evil Guiña Mugu. Yeah, I mean that's the reason I just moved to Blue Sky. Like, fuck this guy. He's a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
He's the worst of the worst. So yeah, you can find me at Evil Guiña Mugu, and if you're on Blue Sky, you can find me at El Mugu. So yeah, that's it.
Nice.
All right, Robert.
You can find me on x.com/Twitter, and I really will not call it X unofficially in my own personal life. But you can find me under Robert Yapp 80 if you want to chat shit with me. You can also find the Quad Damage podcast. I manage that platform on YouTube, so drop us a comment there in regards to anything. You can find us on Reddit as well. So I'm on there. Post me over there all day long if you want to as well.
Course,
and also, of course, you can find us on Elon's sinking ship, let's say politely, at the Quad Dam podcast. So those are all the places you can find me.
And Medium?
That is an unsettling facial expression. Holy shit. I'm not going to sleep very well tonight. All right, well, you can find me also in the dark corners of the earth, called the Twitterverse or the YouTubes or wherever. Midnight Medium on most places except for Twatter, which is a Midnight Medium.
Just to be awkward. Thank you, Elon.
Yeah, so you can find me, Deadforge, on YouTube, Deadforge on Patreon, and then at Lord of the RPG, which I still hang on to on the X Twitter.
More guys, I like this.
Everyone,
I like this.
Let's keep booming.
Yeah.
Keep on booming. Which one are we going with? I always forget.
Keep on booming.
Yeah, keep on booming, baby.